The following is a detailed account of what occurred during the incidents involving SCP-087. On the seemingly ordinary campus of Winston University, behind the mundane facade of a janitorial closet, lies the entrance to SCP-087. Beyond the doors of what would typically be a storage space for cleaning supplies and the occasional roach. Much of SCP-087's origins remain unknown, as most of the vital information was expunged from the Foundation's files after a disastrous fourth exploration attempt. However, transcripts from 3 of the 4 explorations are well documented, and most of the personnel involved in the initial investigations into the anomaly now focus their energy on containment efforts. SCP-087 is not an entity or an object, but a place. A staircase past the janitorial closet that seemingly descends down indefinitely. The door to SCP-087, placed by the Foundation to avoid any containment breach, is made out of reinforced steel. It boasts an electro-release lock mechanism. The mechanism requires a specific voltage, 72 volts precisely, and a 42-degree counterclockwise rotation of the key to release the lock, a detail known only to a handful of Foundation personnel. Dr. Elise Harrow, a senior researcher of the Foundation and the head of containment department of SCP-087, stands before the steel-reinforced door, her gaze fixed on the locking mechanism. "Is everything in place for today's check?" Dr. Harrow asks, turning to Agent Lyle, who oversees the physical security of SCP-087. "Yes, Dr. Harrow. Voltage levels are stable, and all surveillance feeds are live and recording," Agent Lyle responds. The two stand in a hallway that matches the sterile, utilitarian charm of academic institutions worldwide, yet the air around this particular doorway is charged with a palpable tension. Dr. Harrow, clipboard in hand, makes a note before continuing. "And the last maintenance check on the door's padding and lock integrity? Conducted last night by Engineering Team Delta. No faults detected. The door's disguise remains uncompromised," Agent Lyle confirms, his voice carrying the professional detachment honed by years of dealing with anomalies. Dr. Harrow nods, satisfied with the report. "Let's go over the brief one more time. No access without Level 4 authorization, continuous monitoring, and absolutely no interaction with the SCP-087 without a pre-approved test plan. And as always, the slightest anomaly in behavior or structure, we lock down immediately and escalate." Agent Lyle acknowledges the directive with a sharp, "Understood, Doctor." As they speak, a young technician named Simmons approaches, a tablet in hand. "Dr. Harrow, we've completed the review of the electromagnetic interference patterns recorded last week. There's been a slight increase." "Show me," Dr. Harrow demands, extending her hand for the tablet. The graphs display minute fluctuations, a dance of data points that might seem innocuous to the untrained eye. "Keep an eye on it, Simmons. Any pattern, no matter how minor, can be the precursor to something more significant." "We do well to remember that," she advises, handing back the device. Simmons nods, his expression serious. "We will keep an eye on it." As Simmons departs, Dr. Harrow turns back to the door, her mind racing with different theories about what this could mean. Agent Lyle shares her concern, his expression mirroring the unease that the anomaly might have become more unstable. The slight increase in electromagnetic interference recorded gnaws at Dr. Harrow's thoughts. Subtle yet persistent patterns like these often precede significant events. Sitting in her office later that evening, she reviews the data again, scrutinizing every detail. The fluctuations are too consistent to ignore. Electromagnetic interference of this nature could potentially be explained by piezoelectric effects, Dr. Harrow mused, speaking to herself as she annotated the margins of the graph printouts. If the structure of SCP-087 contains quartz or other piezoelectric materials, mechanical stress could be generating these anomalies. This hypothesis was plausible. The infinite descent and the unknown materials comprising SCP-087 could indeed be exerting unusual pressures, thereby converting mechanical stress into electromagnetic fields. Such a phenomenon would intensify if the structure shifted or if there were environmental changes within the stairwell. Resolving to explore this theory further, Dr. Harrow scheduled a meeting with her team. The room was filled with the top minds from the Foundation's physics and geology departments. As you can see, Dr. Harrow began, pointing to the detailed graphs, the electromagnetic patterns recorded aren't merely noise. I believe we might be looking at a piezoelectric effect, which suggests that the physical structure of SCP-087 could be interacting with its environment in a way that generates these fields. Dr. Ivanov, from the physics department, leaned forward, intrigued. If that's the case, Dr. Harrow, we should consider deploying sensors that can measure mechanical stress and environmental changes within SCP-087. This would not only test your hypothesis, but could also provide us with valuable data on the internal dynamics of the anomaly. Dr. Harrow nodded in agreement. Exactly, Dr. Ivanov. I believe deploying sensors would provide some crucial data, but I have a more practical approach. We will send a crew to investigate. Dr. Ivanov raised his eyebrows, as did the rest of the team, surprised and intrigued by Dr. Harrow's suggestion. A direct investigation? That's quite bold, given the unknowns we're dealing with. What sort of precautions are you considering for such a mission? Dr. Harrow leaned back, her eyes reflecting a strategic determination. We'll equip them with specialized gear to measure not only the electromagnetic fields, but also thermal, acoustic, and structural data in real time. Each member will be thoroughly briefed on potential risks and emergency procedures. Plus, we'll enhance their communication gear to ensure constant contact with the control room. Agent Lyle, who had been listening intently, chimed in. I'll coordinate with the security teams to ensure that the entry and exit protocols are foolproof. We can't afford any breaches or losses during this operation. During the first mission into SCP-087, Dr. Harrow stood in the control room, which was strategically positioned within the confines of Winston University. Tucked away from high-traffic student areas, cleverly camouflaged as part of the university's maintenance department to maintain the secrecy of the operations. As the team gathered, the screens in the control room flickered to life, showing the static image of the heavy, steel-reinforced door that marked the entrance to SCP-087, behind which the first subject stood ready and awaiting orders. Dr. Harrow and her team worked amid stacks of documents and manila folders, each prominently labeled Exploration Attempt 1, SCP-087.
D-8432, do you copy?
Dr. Harrow's voice remained steady as the first exploration beyond the door commenced. The control room buzzed with activity, filled with personnel diligently transcribing the events and closely monitoring every biometric indicator. A crackle of static buzzed through the speakers before the reply came.
Yeah, I hear you, Doc. Ready to go whenever you are.
D-8432, a middle-aged Caucasian male of average build, was equipped for what was expected to be a straightforward reconnaissance mission. His gear included a 75-watt flood lamp, designed to last 24 hours but whose effectiveness in this environment was yet untested. Strapped to his chest was a handheld camcorder with a live transmission stream, and an audio headset kept him in constant contact with control.
Proceed with opening the lock. Voltage and rotation, remember?
Dr. Harrow reminded, watching as D-8432 adjusted the settings on a small device attached to his belt.
Got it, 72 volts, turning 42 degrees counterclockwise now.
D-8432 confirmed. The heavy click of the lock disengaging echoed through the speakers, and the door swung open with a groan of metal that seemed too loud in the otherwise silent hallway. From the doorway, peering into what should be a closet reveals an unlit platform staircase descending sharply at a 38-degree angle. Each flight segment consists of 13 steps, ending at a semicircular landing platform approximately 3 meters in diameter. The direction of descent rotates 180 degrees at each platform, creating a spiral-like staircase. The stark nature of SCP-087 imposes severe visual limitations on anyone daring to investigate its confines. Visibility extends to approximately 1.5 flights regardless of the light source's intensity, creating an oppressive curtain of darkness just beyond the immediate field of view. This necessitates the use of portable lighting by the Foundation. However, attempts to use high-powered light sources to illuminate more of the structure yielded similar results. The stairwell appears to absorb light, rendering sources brighter than 75 watts surprisingly ineffective. The deeper one ventures, the more the darkness consumes the light, swallowing lumens in a way that defies natural law and instills a creeping dread in all who descend. D-8432 stepped through the doorway onto the initial platform of SCP-087. The flood lamp flickered briefly as he adjusted it, then steadied, casting a pool of light that illuminated only the first 9 steps. The next platform remained shrouded in darkness.
It's dark in here.
D-8432 muttered, his voice tinged with unease.
Is your flood lamp functioning properly?
Dr. Harrow asked, noting the limited range of the light. D-8432 aimed the lamp out the door and into the hallway of the building. The light easily reached the far end, confirming its functionality.
Yeah, it's working, just won't light these stairs all the way down. Thank you, D-8432. Please continue.
Dr. Harrow instructed, her eyes not leaving the monitor that now displayed the descending figure of D-8432. With a hesitant nod, D-8432 descended the 13 steps to the second platform. This area, semicircular and made of rough, unfinished concrete, showed no distinct features, just patches of dust and the occasional scuff mark. Turning 180 degrees to begin the descent down the next flight, D-8432 paused. His body language tensed, a clear indication he'd heard something.
Reason for stopping? You hear that? There's a kid down there. Sounds like one.
D-8432 whispered, his voice barely carrying over the mic. The control room was silent. No such sounds were detected through the feed.
Could you please describe the sound? It's young. Either a female or a very young boy. It's crying and sobbing and saying, "Please, help, please." Yeah, keeps repeating that.
D-8432 reported, his voice dropping as he strained to listen.
Can you estimate its distance from your current location? I don't know, maybe 200 meters down. Please continue down the next flight.
Dr. Harrow directed, noting every word in her log. D-8432 resumed his descent. With each step, the reality of their situation became clearer. They were dealing with an entity or phenomenon that defied not just physical laws but possibly human understanding. As he reached the next landing, the audio of a child as described was faintly picked up by the microphone, validating D-8432's earlier report.
We're picking it up as well. Continue down. Stop if you notice any changes in the audio or environment.
Dr. Harrow instructed, her voice betraying none of her mounting concern. D-8432's progress was marked by a steady, rhythmic descent, his footsteps echoing off the concrete. He descended another 17 flights, his camera capturing the unchanging monotony of SCP-087's interior. Each landing was identical, each turn a mirror of the last, the only difference being the slowly intensifying sounds of distress echoing up the stairwell.
I'm not getting any closer to the kid. Noted. Please continue.
Dr. Harrow responded, keeping her tone neutral despite the growing unease that knotted her stomach. The exploration continued. After what felt like an eternity, he reached what would be his final stopping point on this journey, far deeper than any could have anticipated. The flood lamp, now seemingly dimmer than ever, cast long shadows behind him. Then, without warning, D-8432's flood lamp illuminated a figure, a face devoid of eyes, mouth, or nose, known now as SCP-087-1. It appeared suddenly, shockingly, just beyond the reach of the light. D-8432 recoiled, stumbling backward as the face surged forward. D-8432's voice broke, panic overtaking him.
Can you please describe what you see?
Dr. Harrow's voice was calm, a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding below.
It's some sort of person face thing and it's looking right at me. It's looking right at me. Is it moving?
Dr. Harrow pressed, her hands clenched tightly around her pen.
No, it's just staring at me. It's creepy. Please approach and further illuminate the entity. I don't want to.
D8432 began, but the face jerked forward suddenly, cutting him off. Feed filled with static as D8432 turned and fled, the camera jostling violently with his rapid, panicked movements. In the control room, Dr. Harrow stood frozen, her breath caught in her throat as she listened to the fading screams of D8432 echoing up from the depths of SCP-087. The camera feed was a blur of gray and black, the only sound now the harsh, ragged breaths of a man driven beyond the brink of fear. When D8432 finally emerged from SCP-087, collapsing into the arms of awaiting medical personnel, his eyes told the story of a man who had seen something that would haunt him forever. Dr. Harrow, her face pale and her hands trembling slightly, made a note in her log. The exploration was over, but the mystery of SCP-087 had only deepened. The next day, an emergency meeting convened rapidly in the aftermath of the disastrous first exploration attempt into SCP-087. Dr. Harrow, visibly tense but composed, stood at the head of the conference table surrounded by her senior team. "Let's get straight to the point," Dr. Harrow began, her voice carrying the weight of the situation. "The first exploration has raised significant concerns about both the security and the environmental challenges of SCP-087. Agent Lyle, overseeing physical security, was the first to address the security concerns. We need to reassess our entrance security measures. The electro-release lock mechanism performs well, but if the anomaly is capable of such unexpected behavior, we may need additional safeguards." Dr. Harrow nodded, turning to the technical team. "Simmons, talk to me about the lighting. Our current setup was clearly inadequate. What are our options?" Simmons adjusted his glasses, his expression serious. "The stairwell's ability to absorb light beyond normal physical laws is troubling. We might consider experimenting with different spectrums or intensities, and while we do so, it may seem like a good idea to make a trail using high-intensity, portable LED lights. Perhaps using more than one light source allows for a better field of view." The team agreed with the suggestions. Following the first exploration, any subsequent investigations needed to be thoroughly planned. Weeks had passed since the harrowing first descent into SCP-087. The data collected was meticulously analyzed, theories were proposed and debunked, and the haunting image of SCP-087-1 remained indelibly etched in the minds of those who saw it. The decision to send another explorer down was not taken lightly, but the unanswered questions and the persistent, eerie cries echoing from the depths demanded further investigation. D9035, a robust individual with a complex psychological profile, was the chosen subject for this second exploration. His demeanor was one of reluctant determination, fully aware of the chilling accounts from the previous mission, yet driven by his own reasons to proceed. Dr. Harrow's voice crackled through the headset, a reassuring thread of calm in the oppressive atmosphere of the control room.
D9035, please confirm all equipment check before you proceed. Everything's green, Doc. Flood lamp camera, all operational. And yeah, I got the LEDs too.
D9035 replied, patting the backpack that contained 100 small LED lights with adhesive backs, intended to mark his path and provide points of reference.
Good. Remember, your primary objective is to map your route and verify the auditory phenomena reported. Place one LED light on each landing.
Dr. Harrow instructed, watching his every move through the feed. D9035 approached the steel door, unlocking it with a familiar buzz as the release mechanism disengaged. The doorway opened to reveal the top platform of SCP-087, the darkness within seeming to swallow the beam of his 100-watt flood lamp.
You want me to go down there, Doc? Yes, please verify the flood lamp outside of SCP-087 first.
Dr. Harrow requested, needing to ensure the equipment functioned perfectly before proceeding. D9035 shone the lamp down the hallway, the light reaching significantly further than when aimed down the staircase. Satisfied, he turned back to the dark descent.
Looks good, Doc. Bright as day out here. Thank you. Proceed to the first landing.
Dr. Harrow said, marking his compliance in her log. Stepping cautiously onto the staircase, D9035 descended the first 13 steps. The oppressive darkness seemed to mute the sounds of his movements, making each step feel heavier than the last.
Hey, Doc. I know what you said and all, but I don't think I want to go there.
D9035 halted, his voice echoing slightly in the stairwell.
As per our earlier conversation, please continue to the first landing.
Dr. Harrow reiterated firmly, understanding his fear yet knowing the importance of their task. With a deep breath, D9035 complied, reaching the landing and stopping.
Is that a kid? Please remove one of the adhesive lights and affix it to the wall on the landing.
Dr. Harrow directed, purposely ignoring his question to maintain focus on the procedure.
Doc, you hear that? Is that a kid down there?
D9035 persisted, clearly unnerved by the sounds that now grew faintly audible through the transmission.
That's unconfirmed. Please affix an LED light to the wall and verify its function.
Dr. Harrow responded calmly. Reluctantly, D9035 adhered the first LED to the concrete wall, pressing it to turn on. The small circle of light flickered on, battling the overwhelming darkness.
Turn off your flood lamp for a moment.
Dr. Harrow instructed. With a hesitating pause, D9035 complied. The LED illuminated the landing dimly, but did not extend beyond the first step of the next descent.
Thank you. Turn your flood lamp back on and continue. Place an LED on each landing and report anything unusual.
Dr. Harrow instructed, her voice steady. Reactivating his lamp, D9035 continued the descent, each step taking him deeper into the cold embrace of SCP-087. At every landing, he paused to affix another LED, the tiny lights creating a breadcrumb trail of luminescence in the engulfing darkness. As he descended further, the pleading cries of what sounded undeniably like a child grew neither closer nor more distant. The consistency of the sound in such a mutable environment was disconcerting.
I don't think I'm getting any closer to the kid, Doc.
D9035 eventually reported, his voice echoing off the concrete.
How far below would you estimate the source of the sound to be now?
Dr. Harrow inquired, noting the unchanged nature of the audio phenomena.
Same as before. 150 to 200 meters down. It's like it ain't moving or I ain't moving.
D9035 observed, the bizarre nature of the situation clearly affecting him.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Dr. Harrow encouraged, her curiosity piqued despite the eerie circumstances. The exploration continued, marked by the routine placement of LED lights and the unchanging, distant sobbing. After descending what he counted as the 51st landing, D9035 stopped abruptly. The camera feed showed an arced gouge in the concrete wall, smooth and deliberate as if made by something, or someone, inhuman.
You see that?
D9035 asked, his flood lamp highlighting the anomaly.
Yes. Can you describe what you see?
Dr. Harrow asked, leaning closer to the monitor.
Looks like something slashed at the wall and the step over here's all crumbled up and stuff. The slash mark looks really smooth.
D9035 reported, touching the gouge tentatively.
Smooth like glass?
Dr. Harrow queried, her mind racing with possibilities.
Yeah, exactly like glass. Feels weird too. Cold. Kind of pulsing.
D9035 described, a note of awe in his voice at the strange, tactile sensation.
Thank you, D9035. Please continue down.
Dr. Harrow instructed, her notes growing more detailed with each passing moment.
Look, Doc. I think I've gone far enough.
D9035 finally protested, his resolve waning.
Please continue, as per our agreement.
Dr. Harrow urged, her tone gentle yet firm. Reluctantly, D-9035 resumed his descent, each step taking him deeper into the unknown, the darkness around him punctuated only by the small islands of light from the LEDs, and the ever-present, distant cries of a child that seemed to beckon him further into the abyss. D-9035's descent became more mechanical as the sameness of the environment wore on him. He continued placing the LED lights at each landing, though the isolation of his surroundings seemed to press closer with each step he took. His breathing grew heavier, audible over the headset.
Doc, you still there? I'm here.
Dr. Harrow replied promptly, her voice a steady anchor.
Please report any changes. Nothing new to report. Just more steps, more dark, and that crying. It's just the same. Over and over.
D-9035 muttered, his tone a mixture of frustration and bewilderment.
Understood. Continue descending and keep reporting. Your data is invaluable.
Dr. Harrow encouraged, watching the monitors intently as D-9035's headlamp pierced the unyielding gloom. After another 38 flights of stairs, D-9035 paused, his body language showing fatigue.
Doc, how far down does this thing go? Feels like I'm walking into nothing. We don't know, D-9035. That's why your exploration is crucial. You're doing well. Keep going.
Dr. Harrow reassured him. Resuming his descent, D-9035 reached the 89th landing. This time, his foot caught on something, and he stumbled slightly. The camera swayed, and when it steadied, it showed part of the stair had been destroyed. The concrete was not just cracked, but looked as if it had been violently smashed.
You see that?
D-9035 pointed the camera at the damaged stair.
Yes, I see it. Please describe. It looks like the step just gave out, or something hit it real hard. There's debris all over this landing.
D-9035 reported, his light tracing over the rubble.
Proceed with caution, D-9035. Check the stability before you continue.
Dr. Harrow advised, noting the potential danger. Carefully, D-9035 tested the next few steps with his foot before committing his weight. Satisfied, he continued down, his pace slower now, more cautious. The next 50 flights passed without incident, but the monotony was abruptly broken when D-9035 stopped sharply. The camera feed showed him turning quickly to look behind him.
Something's wrong. It felt like something was watching me.
He whispered, panning the camera around in a slow, sweeping motion.
Can you see anything on the camera? Is there anything visible? No, nothing. Just felt like, I don't know, like cold air passed me or something. Continue down. Stay alert and keep the camera rolling.
Dr. Harrow instructed, her own anxiety heightening. As D-9035 resumed his descent, the control room staff watched with bated breath. The darkness seemed to deepen, the LEDs he placed earlier barely visible in the camera's range now. After another dozen flights, D-9035's voice broke the silence again.
Doc, the sounds, they're getting louder, clearer. It's like I'm getting closer finally.
He reported, a note of hope mixed with dread in his tone.
Good. Keep going. You may be nearing the source. This is critical.
Dr. Harrow encouraged, her fingers crossed beneath the desk. Descending another few flights, D-9035 suddenly stopped. The camera feed jolted as he gasped, the light catching something in the darkness below.
There it is again, that face.
D-9035 exclaimed, his voice laced with fear. The camera zoomed in shakily, and there it was, SCP-087-1. The face appeared out of the darkness closer than before, its featureless visage somehow staring directly into the camera, into D-9035, into all who watched.
It's just staring at me. Not moving, just staring, like... Try to communicate with it. See if it responds. D-9035, if it feels too dangerous, you are clear to ascend.
Dr. Harrow added quickly, prioritizing his safety. D-9035 did not move, his breath audible over the headset. After a long pause, the face suddenly shifted, leaning forward as if curious or provoked.
this, I'm out.
D9035 yelled, turning abruptly and hurrying back up the stairs. The LED lights flickered in his wake, casting eerie shadows as he ascended rapidly.
Keep the camera on as you go. Record everything.
D9035's ascent was frantic, the sound of his heavy boots on the concrete stairs echoing through the feed. The cries that had been a constant backdrop to the exploration were now drowned out by his rapid breathing and the pounding of his footsteps. Reaching the upper levels, D9035 burst through the door into the building, the light from the hallway stark against the pitch black he'd emerged from. He was pale, sweating and shaking, but safe. Dr. Harrow sighed deeply, relieved. D9035, report to the medical bay immediately. Good work. We'll debrief after you've been cleared. After the traumatic experiences of the previous explorations, the decision to continue delving into SCP-087 weighed heavily on the entire research team. Nonetheless, the persistent and unexplained phenomena emanating from the depths, coupled with the chilling interactions with SCP-0871, necessitated further investigation. The team gathered in the control room once again, working amidst stacks of documents and manila folders, each prominently labeled Exploration Attempt 3, SCP-087. D9884, a woman with a history marked by personal challenges and resilience, was selected for the third foray into the anomaly. The preparation for this mission was meticulous. D9884 was not only equipped with a 75-watt flood lamp and a handheld camcorder, but also carried essential supplies: 3.75 liters of water, 15 nutrient bars, and a thermal blanket. These provisions indicated an expectation of a prolonged exploration, or at least the preparation for unforeseen circumstances. In the control room, Dr. Harrow initiated the final checks before the descent.
D9884. Confirm that all your equipment is operational and your pack is secure.
She instructed, her voice steady, but not without concern.
Everything's checked and rechecked, Doc. Ready to go whenever you are.
D9884 responded, her tone betraying a hint of nervous anticipation.
Very well. Proceed with the door sequence.
Dr. Harrow directed, observing as D9884 approached the heavy steel door that concealed SCP-087. The lock disengaged with a loud click, and the door opened slowly, revealing the dark maw of the staircase. D9884's lamp cast a shallow pool of light as she stepped onto the first platform.
It's just as you described. Really dark and kind of oppressive,
she commented, her voice echoing slightly off the concrete walls.
Understood. Please begin your descent. Remember to report any auditory or visual changes.
Dr. Harrow instructed, her eyes glued to the monitors displaying D9884's progress. As D9884 descended, she placed high-efficiency LED markers on each landing. Unlike the flood lamp, these LEDs provided a more reliable source of light in the enveloping darkness. The sobbing and cries for help, previously reported by the other explorers, were immediately audible, adding a haunting backdrop to the descent.
It's a lot,
D9884 murmured, pausing momentarily on the 17th landing to catch her breath and adjust her backpack.
There's a constant crying. It's everywhere and nowhere all at once. Keep going, D9884. Note anything out of the ordinary, especially changes in the environment or in the audio intensity.
Dr. Harrow responded, noting her observations. As D9884 reached the 51st landing, she suddenly stopped, her breath hitching audibly.
There's something here on the ground. It's sticky and... it smells bad.
Dr. Harrow's interest peaked.
Can you describe the scent more specifically? It's metallic, like rusty metal, mixed with something foul. I'm not sure.
D9884 replied, carefully stepping around the substance to avoid further contact.
Thank you. Continue down. It's essential we understand if this is a recurring anomaly.
Dr. Harrow said, her thoughts racing with the possibilities of what this new finding could indicate. As she spoke, She jotted down notes on her clipboard, while her team meticulously transcribed the varying accounts, comparing them to what had been encountered on the 51st landing during the previous exploration. D-9884 resumed her descent, each step measured and cautious. The crying continued, a constant reminder of the unknown awaiting her. It was not until she reached what seemed like the 89th landing that something truly unusual occurred. A sudden shift in the air pressure made her ears pop, and the floor beneath her seemed less solid.
There's a hole here, it's big.
D-9884 exclaimed, her camera tilting down to show a gaping void in the middle of the landing, the team watching the familiar debris found by the last explorer and the hole in the stairs.
Be careful, D-9884. Can you estimate the depth?
Dr. Harrow asked, her voice tense.
No way to tell. It's just black. Wait, there was a light. It flicked on and off down there.
D-9884 reported, startled.
We saw it on our end as well. That might be significant. Do you still hear the crying?
Dr. Harrow queried, intrigued by this new development.
Yes, it's louder now. Feels like it's coming from down there.
D-9884 pointed towards the hole, her lamp illuminating the edges but failing to penetrate the deep darkness below.
Continue the descent. We need to understand the relationship between these phenomena.
Dr. Harrow instructed, though her concern for D-9884's safety was growing. With palpable reluctance, D-9884 moved past the hole, her steps quickening as if driven by an unseen urgency. The deeper she went, the more the boundaries of her environment seemed to blur. After what felt like hours, yet was only additional dozens of flights, D-9884 stopped again, her breath heavy.
I think it's following me. I can feel it. It's like the darkness is alive. Stay focused, D-9884. You're equipped for an extended stay if necessary. Use your resources.
Dr. Harrow reminded her, trying to maintain a calm demeanor despite the unsettling reports. Suddenly, a sharp static noise burst through the communication link and the video feed glitched. When it stabilized, D-9884 was facing upward, her flood lamp catching the briefest glimpse of SCP-087-1. The face was there, hovering just behind her, its empty gaze fixed not on her but directly into the camera, into the eyes of those watching from the safety of the control room.
It's here. It's right behind me.
D-9884 screamed, the terror unmistakable in her voice.
Try to remain calm. Keep moving.
Dr. Harrow shouted into the mic, her professional composure cracking. D-9884's descent became a frantic escape, the camera jostling wildly as she stumbled down the unending stairs. The cries grew louder, the darkness deeper, and the face of SCP-087-1 appeared intermittently, each time closer, each time more horrifying than the last. The communication link filled with D-9884's screams, the static, and the chilling sound of something unknown moving in the darkness. And then abruptly the feed cut out. Silence fell over the control room, a heavy, oppressive silence that mirrored the darkness of SCP-087. Dr. Harrow leaned back, her face pale, her mind racing. The exploration had provided more questions than answers, and the fate of D-9884 remained uncertain, lost in the depths of an anomaly that defied understanding. The mystery of SCP-087 deepened, a dark whisper into the void that refused to release its secrets. The control room was suffused with a heavy silence following the abrupt termination of D-9884's transmission. Dr. Harrow sat motionless, staring at the blank screens where moments before, the depths of SCP-087 had revealed horrors beyond comprehension. The urgency to understand and potentially rescue D-9884 catalyzed a flurry of activity among the SCP staff. A fourth mission was launched to rescue D-9884, and the Foundation still maintains folders and computer files labeled Exploration Attempt 4, SCP-087. However, these folders are empty. Rumors abound that the mission's outcome was so horrifying that all data related to it was expunged from the Foundation's records. The team involved in the anomalies exploration was disbanded, with members reassigned to different departments. However, disturbing events followed in the aftermath. Several team members developed unexplained schizophrenia-like symptoms, leading to hospitalizations. Tragically, 3 deaths were reported within months of the mission, and despite thorough autopsies, the cause of death remained elusive. Dr. Harrow, once at the forefront of SCP-087's containment efforts, disappeared without a trace following the ill-fated mission. Efforts to locate her proved fruitless, adding to the mystery surrounding the anomaly. Currently, a new team oversees the containment of SCP-087, but the Foundation's understanding of the anomaly remains as limited as ever. Dr. Harrow and her team had developed working hypotheses regarding the voices, the unusual light absorption, and the fluctuations in electromagnetic activity observed within SCP-087. Yet due to the series of failed missions, these hypotheses were never validated or fully explored. The Foundation has since made no further attempts to investigate SCP-087, and there are no plans to do so in the foreseeable future. The anomaly remains classified as Euclid, reflecting the Foundation's ongoing struggle to comprehend and control it. As SCP-087 continues to be monitored and contained, its depths remain a daunting enigma,